Hey, church, and welcome to Truth in 10, where the goal is to think Christianly or think biblically about all kinds of topics. And the topic today comes from a question from one of our viewers, and actually this person's kids, asking about peer pressure. How can we deal with peer pressure? And does the Bible say anything about peer pressure? Well, in fact, it does, and I don't think this is just a question for kids. Now, it's great for kids or teenagers, but all of us have influences. All of us have people around us who can either lead us in good ways or in bad ways, and we need to think about how we can respond to that. Now, I've heard a good quote on this. One of the leadership teachers I followed, named Craig Groeschel, he says this: "Show me your friends and I'll show you your future." And what he's saying by that is, when you have people around us, they're going to draw you in a certain way. And if you have a close group of friends, you're going to gravitate. You're going to kind of do what they do and think like they think. And that means that our influences matter. And the Bible has a lot to say about this. One really good verse in the book of Proverbs, and there are a lot in Proverbs. Again, we've talked about Proverbs a lot in Truth in 10 because Proverbs has a lot to say about everyday life. And if you're a kid or a teenager facing these kind of things, Proverbs is really helpful. But one of the verses in Proverbs that's really good for this comes from Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20. And it says, "The one who walks with the wise becomes wise, and the companion of fools suffers harm." That is, if your friends, if the people you walk with are wise and they're trying to make good decisions and they're trying to listen to what God says and what older people say, they're going to, if you're walking with those kind of people, you're going to become more like them. You can become wise making good decisions. But if you're living your life and making close friends with these people who are doing all kinds of bad things, they don't care about the consequences, they just want to have fun, you're going to suffer harm. It's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt your future. When we look through the book of Proverbs, one of the major aspects of being wise is avoiding the way of the wicked. There is a path of doing bad things, of forgetting the things you've been taught, of ignoring good advice, ignoring God. And the Bible tells us that those who go that way will try to entice people. They will try to get you to go with them. They will say, "Come, let's do this thing. Let's do these bad things. It's going to make us happy. It's going to be fun. There will be no bad things come of it. There won't be consequences. We can make money," whatever it is. They'll try and bring you, they invite you onto that pathway. And the Bible teaches us that to be wise, we need to say no. We need to avoid that pathway. The Bible says, don't start on that pathway. Don't go down that pathway. Don't even look down that pathway, because it will just lead to harm and even death. Now, not only does the Bible teach us this, but the Bible also shows this in a story. There's a story of King Solomon's son. Now, King Solomon was a king who came to God and said he wanted wisdom, and God gave him great wisdom, and he actually wrote down much of the book of Proverbs and other wisdom literature. And he had a son, and he tried to teach his son the good way, but his son, who was named Rehoboam, he didn't want to listen to his dad. And when he grew up and became king, the people came to him and they said, "Our life has been hard." All the workers in the land came and said, "It's been really hard for us. We've had really hard labor. Will you make it easier for us? If you make it easier for us, King Rehoboam, then we'll follow you. We'll listen to you. We'll love you." And King Rehoboam said, "Come back. I'll let you know." And the wise people who King Solomon had around him, that what we would call his counselors, they said to King Rehoboam, "Listen, if you make the people's work easier, they'll love you. If you speak kindly to them, they'll listen to you, and you can reign as king forever. It will go very well for you." But King Rehoboam, who was a young man, he said, "No, I'm not going to listen to you." And he went to his friends. He went to the people who he grew up with. So this might be for you like the people from school or the people on your sports teams or whatever else. And he said to them, "What should I do?" And these young people, they didn't know much about leadership. They didn't make very good decisions. And they said, "Hey, you know what you should say? You should show him who's boss. You should say, 'Oh, you thought it was hard under my dad? I'm going to make it even harder. I'm going to make the work so hard for you, and I'll show you who's boss.'" And so what did King Rehoboam do? He listened to his peers. He gave into that pressure he forgot the wisdom. He said, I'm not going to listen to wisdom. I'm going to give in. And he wanted to be, this great and hard ruler with lots of power. And so the people came back and he said, you thought it was hard under my dad? I'm going to make it even harder for you. I'll show you who's boss. And you know what happened? The people hated him. The people ran away from him. His whole kingdom fell apart. A lot of people left and said, we're not listening to you. They got another king, and wars started, and evil started to invade, and all kinds of bad things happened in his kingdom. And now we look back, and mostly because of that one decision to give in to peer pressure, he does not have a very good story. That's how bad things work. Bad things work by people wanting to give in and inviting other people in, and people thinking, okay, I guess I'll give in. I guess I'll give in and go down that pathway. But we can learn from the wisdom of God that doesn't end well. That doesn't ever bring you to where you want to go in life. Giving into bad things doesn't lead you to where you want to be. And so I think we can take a few things from this. If we're going to say, what do we do when peer pressure comes? Here's a few things that you can do. One is decide to be brave. So even before any of this happens, even before anyone comes to you with bad things, you should make a game plan. You should have kind of a pre-game plan before any bad thing comes. You should decide, I'm not going to give in when people want me to do bad things. Make a plan before it ever happens that you're going to decide to go the good way. You're going to pursue wisdom so that you can do the good things you want to do in life. Lots of peer pressure happens just because it's last minute and you don't know how to respond, and someone says something or everyone's going to do something and you don't have a plan and you're caught off guard. Make a plan to say, no, I'm going to go on the good path. And then you can pray to God and say, God, I want to be brave. I want to go in your way. And so please help me with this plan to avoid peer pressure. Another thing you can do right in the moment is when people want to do bad things, simply get them to question why. Why do you want to do that? Why would you do something that you know is wrong? Will it be worth it? Will it be helpful to you? And you can ask that. And when you ask that question, people might start to think, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this. The next thing you can do with kindness, we don't need to yell at people, we don't need to get angry at people, but you should tell people, you can make your choices, but you can't make my choices for me. I'm going to make my choices, and I want to make good choices. And then finally, and this one can be hard, do the hard work of choosing your friends. Sometimes we make friends just because, that's who we happen to talk to or whatever else. But you need to ask the question, are my friends always pressuring me to go in the wrong way? And if they are, then you should make a decision to find better friends. Find friends who will help you go in the right way. And the earlier you do that, the better. Because the people who want you to do bad things, the people who say, oh, don't listen to your parents, don't listen to wise people, they're probably not good friends to have. They're not going to bring you into good places, and it's going to end up badly. The last thing, and this is hard, especially when you're young, but think bigger. When you're young, in the moment, everything seems so big. If I don't do this one thing that people want me to do, maybe I will never be cool and no one will ever like me. That's not usually the case. That almost never happens. If you think bigger, and if you ask any older person, those little things, those little decisions aren't usually going to end up with big, huge consequences. If you say, I'm not going to do this bad thing, you'll probably start to go on a good path, but you're not all of a sudden going to lose all your friends and your life is going to be over. Making wise decisions will always come out better in the longer term than just giving in to what people want you to do. So this has been Truth in 10. Hopefully that's helpful, and I would counsel you, if you do want to make wise decisions, then do read through Proverbs and try and learn a little bit, because if you learn a little bit of wisdom as you go, a little bit by little bit, then you can become wise in a year or 2 years or 3 years, and these types of decisions will be a lot easier. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.